Good morning, everyone. And thanks for being here. Thank you for joining us. Today's space is all about best security practices, specifically around your wallet and private keys. To discuss this topic, we have a panel of different teams from security related protocols and DApps today. We'll be discussing steps to take and even some helpful tools to keep your experience in Web3 secure now and in the long game as mainstream adoption slowly takes root. We want everyone who is here in this space now to be a voice to anyone newly joining in the future on how to be safe and to navigate this Wild West Web3. And so, without further ado, I want to start introducing the speakers and hosts for today. Myself, I'm Johnny. Many of you know me as Johnny Ringo. I work with the Sarcophagus community, and we focus on giving users a way to securely and privately manage their keys and really any kind of sensitive data for either recovery or passing them on to an heir or family member. We also have Super Secret Evil Mega LLC here from Sarcophagus, such a long name. So please, if you could tell us a bit about your background, Super.
Hey everyone, thanks Johnny. Really appreciate you putting all this together and getting everyone here. Um, yeah, my background is a lot in crypto security for specifically hedge funds and VCs, but then also moving into generalized crypto security, generalized node running, staking, really anything that comes to keeping crypto safe and how that affects you as a human being. That intersection between being a human being with bones and blood and fingers and whatnot, and how that interacts with strong cryptography on the internet. So looking forward to getting into this.
Thank you. Next, Roscoe from Revoke and the security work they're doing there to keep your keys safe. Please introduce yourself, Roscoe.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. My name is Roscoe. I live in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I am the creator of Revoke.cash, which is a platform to help you manage your token approvals, as well as a browser extension that helps you stay safe from like these common phishing scams.
Awesome, thank you. And next is Om Shah from Wallet Guard. Please tell us a bit about yourself and your work, Om.
Hey everybody, my name's Ohm. I'm one of the co-founders of Wallet Guard. We're building end-user security tooling to really secure and empower individuals to protect their assets while they self-custody.
Fantastic. And last but definitely not least, I want to introduce Marco Polo from Candid Wallet. Please give us a bit of info about yourself and your work.
So I'm Marco, and we're working on Candid Wallets, and it's a smart contract wallet based on account abstraction. And the idea here is really to move away from externally owned account, which is the MetaMask type wallets, and offer a better user experience without compromising on security. So that way you can have a wallet without a seed phrase. You can have a social recovery mechanism and other like security features that we're going to be talking about during this space.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for your introductions. Now, for this space, we came up with a few main topics to go over for best practices and tools for users to stay secure. And then after that, we have some broader questions that came in from the community while we were putting this together. And then if we have time in the hour, we want to open it up for some questions to everyone who's here to come up and speak, and also on the other platform on Lonely if we have any questions there. So the first thing we want to cover, we will talk about your browser setup and how to protect your wallet in general with practices for surfing the web and tools that can help keep you secure. Then we'll chat about contract permissions, how they affect you, and what you should consider when choosing which contract permissions you should keep and which ones are higher risk to any user in general. For example, a Uniswap permission to trade USDC versus permissions for a bridge contract from Ethereum to other chains. There is a bit of a difference in the security profile. And finally, we will talk about how to protect your private keys and data for the long game without giving away control. This includes setting up proper safeguards for recovery and also considering what safeguards you can take to ensure your wallets and other important accounts are accessible to immediate loved ones in the case of something unforeseen happening to you. And with that, for our first topic, let's get into a bit about securely navigating Web3, what tools you can use to put in automated safeguards for security. And we have some great teams here from different walks of security, and I think this is a great subject for Wallet Guard, Candid, and Harpy to touch on a bit each. There are a lot of things to consider with securely browsing and interacting in Web3. Wallet Guard, if you don't mind taking the lead on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to securely browsing, I think people often kind of overlook the Web 2 security implications that you kind of have to start with. A lot of people come over from Web 2 not necessarily taking the best practices with them. So, like, people are trained in Web 2 to really just click I accept and I agree to really anything. So, some of the important things that I always recommend to people when they're coming over to Web 3 is one, like, you want some proper antivirus. So, like, something like Malwarebytes and using the premium version there is going to help you stay safe in a lot of times. And then another thing I'd recommend is, like, a lot of people have really poor password hygiene too, and like all of this, I need implicitly will impact your Web3 security hygiene as well. So like using password managers and stuff like that is extremely crucial to keep like unique passwords across the board. But then when you get more into the Web3 implications, uh, I think it's important for people to understand that, you know, there are going to be a lot of people out there that are going to try to deceive you. I tend to always kind of lean on the side of being more paranoid than not when I interact in Web3, just because you never really know who's on the other end of that computer and what their intentions are. So it's always really important to keep your guard up. You know, double check the links you're going to. And, you know, it is impossible. I know a lot of people just say that don't click links, but it's pretty impossible not to click links. That's kind of how the internet was designed. So it's important to just kind of be very conscious of what you're doing, what you're clicking, and if you understand what you're signing.
That's fantastic information. And Harpy and Candid, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to like browser security and just I guess using Web3 in general, at the end of the day, it's just based on what you sign. So the only one that can really kind of like when you get hacked, it's a lot of the time it's you signing your money away unknowingly, like you getting phished or you getting scammed and stuff like that. So it's important to know exactly what you're signing with whatever page you're signing it on, and that can really help with kind of keeping your money safe. Also on that is just like separating your money between different wallets. That's super important, and just not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Um, yeah, everything that you guys said, I I wouldn't add too much on it. Obviously, it's very hard to navigate Web3, and it's a little bit sad that we have to do these spaces because it's not natural. Um, Whenever you go on a website, you sign a transaction, you don't understand it. And then there's a lot of teams that are working on making these more understandable by transaction simulations. So these are important, and uh, from our perspective, we shouldn't. We should really focus on being like more transparent in building products that are by default safe, and we shouldn't just assume that we have to have security practices, but today we have to say these things. So if you're interacting with a new um, dApp, obviously don't use your main wallet, like the Harpy team said. Use a temporary wallet. um, so if for any case you got compromised, you only get compromised for that like hot wallet between quotes. And always double check, like, okay, if is the website legitimate, is and clicking links and all that. So I wouldn't add too much of what you guys said.
You know, and touching on a point that Wallet Guard made there about your password hygiene and it being important to use password managers. A question I had on that actually, is there a difference? And I'm sure there is, but getting a little more into it, is there a difference between built-in password managers like Google, for instance? Every time you create a password through a Google browser, it asks you if you want to store it in their own little built-in password manager versus using something like LastPass or some other thing to manage your passwords. Would you say there is a difference in security profile there and trustworthiness?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first off, never use LastPass. I'll start with that. They've been awful. They've had a bad track record, and you know they've already had their secure notes and stuff like that compromised, which is really atrocious considering that they should have good security practices as a password manager. But then Chrome. Like if you store your passwords in Chrome, it's like backed up to your session and backed up to your Google account, and then all you have to do to get those passwords is just find the computer password, and now you can export all of those passwords in one go. So the reason why I always recommend things like Bitwarden or KeePassXC is because they're open source and self-hostable. So the whole idea is like if you're more paranoid about your security, instead of using a cloud-based service, you could self-host them yourself and manage your own credentials. So it is a little bit more technical if you want to do the self-hosting route, but the cloud storage is perfectly fine as well. And both of them being open source, you can kind of vet their security processes, and they've been audited several times. So highly recommend looking into Bitwarden or KeePassXC.
And thanks for that info on that. That's really good to know. I didn't actually know that about LastPass. I just did a little bit of research on them recently, just seeing how they operated, but I haven't actually used them myself. So really great info to know there. And the next thing that we want to cover is permissions with your wallet or keys, how you give those permissions exactly, and how you should manage them. Roscoe from Evoke is going to go over some of these cases and how you should consider which permissions you will keep doing regular cleanup of contract access.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, so just a big or like just a quick intro on what are these permissions, these approvals. So whenever you're using like DeFi or any kind of smart contract based application like Uniswap or OpenSea, you have to grant these approvals, these permissions for these applications to access basically your tokens or your NFTs. So if you want to sell a token or like an NFT on OpenSea, then you have to give OpenSea permission to sort of sell that token on your behalf. And that is sort of just how these kinds of systems are set up. And there are good reasons for that. But as you can imagine, it can also be kind of dangerous to give these permissions to a lot of different contracts because, for example, we saw even last month or about 2 months ago now that SushiSwap actually got exploited. And in that case, people that had these permissions active to SushiSwap, they got their wallets drained. And so if even these kinds of like established contracts or like projects such as SushiSwap can get exploited in that way, then chances are that there's a lot more projects that might be vulnerable at some point. And as you said, not every permission has the same risk profile. So I think the first distinction to make is sort of the legitimate projects versus just outright scams. And so for legitimate projects, that's just any project that is actually legitimate, like Uniswap or SushiSwap, or other projects like that. And then opposed to that are just the outright scams that kind of trick you into giving permissions to them. Obviously, like if it's an outright scam, you should revoke those immediately as soon as you can. But then for the legitimate projects, there's a lot of nuance. I would say that a lot of contracts that are unupgradable and have been around for a while, and perhaps have been like audited by a few different reputable firms. Those approvals are a lot less risky than sort of the newer projects, and maybe the projects that have upgradable smart contracts. Because if a project is upgradable, then perhaps today everything is safe and there's no bugs in it. But tomorrow, like a new upgrade could introduce a bug that could be exploited, which is usually what happens with these kinds of exploits, that there's some new change that leads to new bugs. So I think one good example of a relatively safe approval to have is something like Uniswap, because their contracts have been around for a long time. They have been audited. They're not upgradable. So that's relatively safe. Of course, nothing is ever 100% safe. But yeah, that's more on the safe side. Then there's some newer projects that I would rather recommend revoking if you don't need to keep them open. And then sort of one final thing that I also want to touch on with respect to these permissions is that certain permissions are not malicious by itself, or maybe they don't even have bugs in the smart contracts themselves, but they do introduce new ways to get scammed. And I think one good example of that is OpenSea smart contracts, because OpenSea is a totally legitimate project. Their smart contracts are really good. There haven't been any bugs in those as of today. That can always change, but I would say OpenSea is doing a great job at writing secure smart contracts. But then if you have these approvals to OpenSea, that kind of opens up your wallet to certain scam methods where the scammer tricks you into signing like an OpenSea listing for 0 ETH. Yeah.
Hey, your mic started cutting in and out right there at the end.
Sorry. Wait, let me just switch my internet. 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yes, now you're clear.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I was just saying at the end, so if you have these approvals to something like OpenSea, even though that is completely legitimate and there's no bugs in there, it still opens you up to potential scams where a scammer may trick you into signing an NFT listing on OpenSea for 0 ETH. And if you have a lot of approvals to OpenSea, then that can be especially dangerous, because they're basically able to drain your entire all the assets that are approved in one single signature, which I think is pretty scary. So I would also recommend keeping sort of your approvals to contracts like this, like mostly NFT marketplaces like OpenSea, to keep those to a minimum, even though OpenSea is a great project by itself.
Can I add? But Wallet Guard, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, Wallet Guard and Harpy, you both had your hands up there for a while.
Yeah. I was just gonna add on. I think Roscoe got it at the end though. I was basically just gonna say even like regular approvals such as ones for your OpenSea when you're going to list an asset can if you're not doing a proper job at separating what a listings wallet looks like for you versus your holdings wallet, those open approvals can put you at risk. Like for example, what happened with Kevin Rose was he had all those open approvals, and these seaport drainers that are out there, they take advantage of all your open approvals, and they're able to drain those assets in one go with a private sale listing. So it's very important to just make sure that either there's two ways to go about it. Either revoke your approvals once you're done with let's say a transaction or a sale, or two, which is probably the better method, is to have some kind of wallet segregation where you have a listings wallet. So if you're planning on selling an asset, send it to this wallet and then sell it from there. So that would definitely be a lot safer than keeping all your assets in one wallet with all your open approvals on that wallet.
And wallets are free. That's a very cool thing is, you can always create a new wallet and it doesn't cost you anything. So the siloing and segregation, I think, is one of the best methods for protecting, the kind of malicious signature requests and the permissions requests, but also just anything in crypto, right? So unless we're talking about the seed phrase level, the wallet is still just as accessible, and you can create infinite or near infinite wallets for very, very trivial cost.
Really solid info. Thank you everyone for that. Harpy, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add or if it got covered there.
It got covered.
Okay, awesome.
I wanted to add, the problem is that most apps ask for infinite approvals, which shouldn't be the default, right? I think Yearn, for example, started only when you do a transaction, they only ask for a specific approval of the amount of the allowance that you need to deposit into their contract. So if you're using MetaMask, you can always edit the allowance and only add it for the specific amount that you're depositing inside the contract. So that's one thing. And then another thing, if you're using a smart contract wallet, you actually never have infinite approval, because the dApp can always send a multi-call, which is a batch transaction that says, hey, approve this amount and only that specific amount and deposit in the same transaction. That incentivizes the dApps to not have infinite approvals, and every time you just have a one-click transaction in that sense.
Very solid points. This is great info for anyone, especially on these contract permissions, because I remember when I came into this space, that was something that I didn't 100% understand and had to have explained to me. And even people like BitBoy don't necessarily understand how contract permissions work. So it's really good to get this information out there and just kind of let everyone know how that works. You have to give a permission first before you can make any transaction with a contract. That's just how it works. And for the last topic, we want to discuss a little bit of credential management in the way of recovery and pass down. These are safeguards everyone should have in some form if you have any kind of digital footprint. Super Secret is here from Sarcophagus to chat a bit about the importance of having a plan for unforeseen situations and things that can happen to you that you just weren't expecting.
Yeah, so it's obviously a very wide subject here to speak about. But specifically in the context of you being removed from control, say that is losing a job or, passing away. It could be being put in the hospital. It could be losing a piece of hardware, right? A lot of the stuff we do with 2FA is hardware tied. Not a lot of people know that. So, the removal from control doesn't necessarily have to be death or something terrible. It could just be, a normal course of life thing, like moving or losing your phone or whatever. So having that plan is a very important thing, and that importance increases in direct proportion to the importance of these small strings of text as they have in our lives. So, 20 years ago, your email password didn't matter that much, right? If someone got a hold of it, they could probably email your friends, maybe look at your bank account, maybe look at your stock portfolio, maybe do some trades. I don't know when E-Trade started doing that. But, there wasn't so much they could do with it. Now, if someone has compromised your Gmail password, they have access to damn near your entire digital life, and in root access as well. They have the ability to change things and to change things that are forward facing forever. They can take them into their own control. They can update and remove you entirely, even if you still have the credentials. So, one of the best ways to do this is to use zero-knowledge services. And zero-knowledge services, things like Proton Mail, things like 1Password, they don't have recover password options. So that string of text, that password, just becomes even more valuable in our lives. This is especially evident on crypto stuff. Private keys are probably the easiest way to describe something that, if lost or stolen, now there's absolutely no way of recovery. No one even has the encrypted data. It's all you. So, when we build these systems, and when I've built these systems in the past for people to manage and recover their crypto holdings, some of the things that we go through aren't the most obvious. Some of them aren't just like, how many vaults are you splitting your private key and putting them into? It's things like, where are your assets in the derivation path of this private key? If I have a seed phrase, how many words is the seed phrase? If I write down 12 of them, is that actually how many there are, right? So even logging that information is not something that most users do. They focus too much on the kind of fun aspects of security and not as much on the aspects that are just boring, like logging, mapping, telling people that you're telling your recipient, your ultimate intended recipient, about staked token options. Are you expecting whoever's receiving your crypto to know that you have a bunch of ETH staked on Lido? Are you expecting them to know that you may have some positions that are in staking contracts that don't show up as ERC20 tokens? How good of a Etherscan investigator is your ultimate recipient? And the real answer there is you kind of can't know. So the more detail that you can put in the map of your holdings and the documentation of your holdings, the more likely it is that they're going to have a full recovery. So I think like that's something I harp on a lot is documentation. The map of the space is almost as important as the space itself. So if someone has a seed phrase, a 24-word seed phrase, there's almost infinite address space within that. So where are the holdings? Doing recoveries over time, we've run into issues where the holdings we don't know what the derivation path is. And we checked some common ones, but we don't know exactly which one was used. So yeah, I think that's something I like to talk about here, along with actual seed phrase recovery options. At Sarcophagus, we're trying to build a digital safe deposit box, mostly because current safe deposit boxes are great options, but they're still guys with guns standing in front of heavy metal doors, which is kind of stupid in light of having strong cryptography in everyone's pocket. So why don't we use this new technology that we have to create or recreate that amazing option of having your keys within your control, but not necessarily with you. So yeah, I'm happy to answer questions about more seed phrase recovery stuff, or kind of where the security compiles down to. But the one final thought, the one thing that I tell every client, every user, is that more crypto is lost than it is stolen. So really, really think about your recovery options, think about your documentation, and try to make everything as simple as humanly possible so that it can be communicated to someone who isn't there when it's being set up, someone who doesn't know anything about the industry, and someone who may not know how much money is in there. Right? So we want to make sure that the recovery is simple, easy, and robust before we worry about it being ultra super secure. So yeah, thanks for listening. And if there's any more I can talk about, I'm happy to answer questions or dive into any of the topics.
Awesome. And we actually have just a few questions from the community that came in while we were setting everything up to read over. So kind of open format. Any of y'all are welcome to answer, just kind of whichever wants to. And the first question is, where do you see technology evolving to allow for better use of these security platforms?
I can kind of take the point on that. I would say that technology is improving mostly on the wallet side when it comes to using these platforms. So I don't know if you've heard of the term account abstraction, but in general, smart contract wallets and I guess more advanced wallet architecture can support showing a lot of security insights to users off the bat. So I'm super excited to see new wallet platforms that are like way better than the old guard when it comes to prioritizing user security. And with that, like a lot of other wallets will follow. So MetaMask, I used to be not a big MetaMask fan because of all the security risks that came with using it. But actually, there's a lot of cool new tools that are coming on MetaMask that, for example, like non-infinite approvals and stuff like that are really helping users out. And it's important because MetaMask has such a huge scale. So I'd say that as time moves on, you might not even know that you have a crypto wallet. It could just be tied to your bank account. So I think when to summarize my answer to the question, a lot of people are working behind the scenes to make things more invisible, more easy, so you don't have to listen to spaces like this to learn about security.
Yeah, to add a bit on account abstraction, these are really good points, and there's a lot when you think about a smart contract wallets moving into that space. There's a few wallets that are building a way to have a different signature scheme whenever you sign a transaction. So instead of signing with your regular private key that you use in wallets like MetaMask, you actually use the secure element of your phone to sign a transaction, and that's only possible because you have a contract account. And that really like opens up a huge possibility to just use a secure element of your phone and never expose a seed phrase, because it's not possible to actually show a seed phrase in that case. And that way you have it all on your phone. That's only one of the features that account abstraction enables, and there's many more. There's like different recovery mechanisms that you can offer. I mentioned before social recovery, which is the ability to add trusted contacts. If you lose your phone, then you call your trusted contacts, or if you don't have, you can add in your ledger or your hardware wallet as a trusted like device to recover an account. That's one of the features as well. The space is really moving extremely fast, especially with 437. So we're excited, especially to dive in with smart contract wallets like Candid.
Awesome. And some of the points y'all covered actually pretty well addressed the next question I had, so I'm going to skip it. What are some of the easiest dangers out there that a normal user should be aware of? And what can they do to prevent themselves from falling victim? So, like, what's some of the most common things that someone's going to run into on a day to day that they might not even notice? And how can they either make it more noticeable for themselves or automatically protect themselves from those dangers?
I think the most obvious one is no one's going to give you free money, especially in crypto. So if there's something that's claiming to give you free money or free tokens or free airdrop, free mint, um, just don't click it. There's cool tools out there to help stop these things. So, um, you know, us at Heartbeat, we add two-factor authentication to your wallet transactions, so you kind of see like an overview of what's happening. There's cool tools like some of the other people in this space as well. So I'll let them take the floor as well.
Yeah, I just want to tell people to stop sending money to random pre-sale wallets. Please stop doing that. That's like the easiest, like low-hanging fruit. Please stop doing that. The second thing, like Harpy mentioned, there's a bunch of different tools out there that are doing like transaction screening. Like what we kind of do as well is like phishing detection. So something that we recently did was launch a feature called Stormwatcher, which essentially is able to look at structural and behavioral patterns of websites and identify wallet drainers on websites before you even visit the site, before you even connect your wallet, before you even simulate a transaction. So that's something that we recently released. And, there are other tools out there as well. Like there's Pocket Universe, there's Stello, there's a whole bunch of different tools that do like transaction simulation. So I would encourage people, if you haven't checked out any of these tools, you should definitely at least check out one of them and see if there's one that you like and you would want to use. I do think transaction simulation, in my opinion, is a commodity. It will be in every wallet within like a year, I'd imagine. But I highly recommend using one of these tools out there while you still can.
I would like to add that, just from an overall security perspective, this is not just crypto. A password manager, it's like 98% of digital security. And if you can silo away, not using the same password for everything, you don't have to worry about most attacks that are happening. From the crypto front, segregating wallets and doing testing, right? Like having a hot wallet that you test things with before you push real money through it, using a hardware wallet. It will save you. Getting to know that and Etherscan, so you can actually check out a contract and see, hey, is this legit? Is it the actual token that I'm looking at? Knowing how to do those cross references between, say the token contract address on Etherscan and checking it out on, say, CoinGecko or OpenSea or whatever you're playing with. Just double checking it, taking the extra 10-15 seconds to double check the contract and make sure that when you click through it, it's a contract that has all the code posted on Etherscan. It's not new unless you're using something new. If it's a Uniswap contract for USDC and it says it's been live for 1 day and there's only 10 transactions, probably not the real one. So yeah, it's just the first thing that was said here, common sense of nothing's free, and if something should have longevity and doesn't, that's a good time to just hit pause and go look on Discord, go look on Telegram, go look somewhere, ask a question, come back later. A lot of this stuff we get excited, want to execute immediately, but a lot of times just wait 30 minutes, wait an hour, and check out what's going on Twitter or on Discord, and you can see if there was a hack that happened. You don't want to be one of the first 3 people to get taken on a hack.
I think one other thing to sort of mention here as well is that what I also see happen a lot is that when people do get scammed, sometimes they end up getting scammed more because there's always these like scammers in Twitter, right, that are like responding to them and telling them, "Look, we can help you get your money back." So I think it is very important to know that if you do get scammed and if your funds do get stolen, that is of course that is super shitty. You don't want that to happen, but there's no way to get your money back, unfortunately. And anyone that does contact you or does tell you that they can help you get your money back is very, very likely scamming you as well. So don't fall for the double scam.
Yeah, these are really good points. Like Discord in general, it's full of messages. I think you're all on Discord and you receive a lot of messages from scammers. It's mostly like scammers. If you get a message like that from someone you don't know, if you share a server, it doesn't mean that they're trusted. Another thing that no one really talks about a lot is that how did we get wallets into the browser and saving a private key inside the browser? It's something that if you're really interacting a lot on Web3, it's very convenient, and I would only use a minimum amount on your hot wallet in your browser. And if you can either use a desktop wallet or a mobile wallet. Usually there's less attacks on mobiles than on the browser. The browser is really the scariest place on the internet that you can save a private key in it. So that's one of the things that are not very obvious, and most of Web3 users are in general have like browser extensions wallets.
And just kind of riffing off of that question into the next question. The next question is, what are some more advanced attacks that we're seeing? And is there something power users should be aware of? And myself, actually, just to touch on this briefly, recently ran across a new type of kind of socially engineered scam that is targeting founders and people who are representing different organizations and projects. And basically how it works is they take some time, instead of just sending you a random message being like, hey, I want to interview. Before they do that, they take a lot of time to set up a Discord, make sure it looks official, even get domain names for their websites that are only one letter off. And this particular scam is really well constructed in the way that there's not a lot of the tells up front that most scams have. Like when you get contacted by someone who wants to talk to you, there's always some kind of tell in how they speak. The specific questions they ask are too generalized, things like that. And this new one, they're not doing that anymore. They're trying to get smarter. They're being more specific with their questions, creating a Discord for the brand that they supposedly represent, which is typically some kind of news reporting agency that has 20,000 members in it and shows 3,000 of them active. They're probably all bots or paid actors, things like that, just trying to make it look legitimate. But this is one that is targeting power users. And one of the things that I saw with it was they ask you to, to go to a Discord. The Discord itself seems safe, but from that Discord, they will ask you to visit the website. And this is where like wallet guard, harp, these different protection things really come in handy because me personally, I am used to being under attack. I'm under attack every single day. So I don't miss much anymore because you're constantly under attack when you're in these
Your mic is
positions.
cutting out a little bit.
Oh, it is? Okay. Let's see here. Is it better now?
Not really.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on, but I saw somebody else had a hand up. So if somebody else wants to take it while I'm fixing my signal here real quick.
It's actually better now. But I guess speaking on this, I guess advanced attacks. My personal background is kind of like within this hacker community. I know a lot about it, and what I do know is that there's a ton of like very well funded groups of people that have been doing online social engineering scamming for at least 25 years, and the and it doesn't fit the normal stereotypes that people seem to think of scammers. Like they speak perfect English, they're using modern technology, um, they're yeah, it's like it's almost as if it's another person talking to you, but their whole shtick is to steal your money. So I think besides using like automated tools like Harpy and Wallet Guard, Fire, Pocket Universe, any of those, there's a lot of things that you can do to keep your personal assets safe. Because uh, I would say the first thing is to just not trust anybody in the space. It you kind of have to think of your crypto wallet as your credit card. Like would you trust your friend when they ask you to I don't know, wire them certain amount of money and they'll give it back within a few days? Like when you abstract it away from crypto and more into money, things start to make a bit more sense. Um, Also, like make sure to double and triple check who's actually talking to you. I've had a ton of people that um, like people will follow you on Twitter impersonating someone else's profile, and it looks very very accurate. But if you actually like give them a call and say, "Hey, did you actually ask me for $25,000?" They'll probably say, "No, that's ridiculous. You're probably getting scammed." So I would say just like double and triple check before you send money anywhere or sign any transactions. Also, be very careful of login signatures. So if you've used websites like OpenSea or any most crypto dApps actually have these login signatures now. What people don't realize is that you can lose all your money from a login signature uh, if you're connected to things like OpenSea or other NFT exchanges. So it's very, very important to not sign anything, even if it looks like it's not going to send an on-chain signature. Anything you sign with your wallet can and probably will take your money. So it's just something to be mindful of.
From the power user side, something that is always a struggle is a lot of times you're going to be using something before the majority of people. Just a function of being full time in DeFi or full time in these spaces is that it's kind of your job to play with things and kind of your job to figure out things first. So again, testing, testing, testing. It's how like having a hot wallet that you test things with and play around with and see if you're actually getting scammed or see if actually the contract is doing what it says it's doing. Looking on Etherscan, doing the math and seeing if the math is correct is one of just the best ways, right? So you have that amount of money in your wallet that you're willing to lose. And a lot of times, you go back later and you've gotten an airdrop or some sort of reward for being an early user from doing this. But again, siloing security, siloing out where your main funds are, siloing out the types of funds that you have, if they're long-term staked assets, if they're short-term traded assets, if they're just play cash or exploratory wallets. So those siloing effects and like the documentation of those for a power user is so important. So yeah, you guys were saying here, that any signature can and will drain your money. I mean, that's the operative function of these. So like Uniswap is draining your money, but it's giving you some money back, right? So I think it's very, very hard to spot something that's going to work or know it's going to work if you're early. But looking on Etherscan and looking at other users and seeing it work successfully for them, is always a good sign too. So Etherscan is your best friend here. Just going and seeing what transactions happen and what transactions are not going through, just doing the math and seeing if it adds up. Is it doing what they say it's doing? And you can see all that on chain. Kind of the beauty of this before the scanners and the wallet wallet guards, as in wallet protectors, are able to get things added to their list of nefarious actors.
And it looks like we have someone up on stage now with some comments or a question. Preston?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's a really good group on the stage. Honestly, like you have a lot of like really talented teams. And what I was gonna just recommend to the general audience is ensuring that you're kind of grooming your security as time proceeds. So look at your approvals, like using revoke.cash, things of that nature, of making sure that you don't have like these lingering approvals just around. Making sure that you're protecting your wallets and stuff like that during using transactions such as wallet card, et cetera, of really looking into, is this the asset that I'm actually intending to receive and the type of thing I'm actually trying to do. And then lastly, one of the things I've been researching a lot recently is a lot of Discord exploitation and social media exploitation, et cetera, with regards to Web3 users. This is something that we'll be releasing pretty soon, but it's worth noting that like if anything ever just kind of feels a little bit off, it probably is. There are some really clever tactics that have been used very recently against Discord users, including malicious like bookmarks and things of that nature. They're really sophisticated, and honestly, it's trivially easy to do. We're likely going to be presenting a cool framework, actually, that kind of takes advantage of this to show users of how terrifyingly simple some of this stuff is. So yeah, I guess that's just the TLDR.
Thanks for coming up and speaking, Preston. I appreciate that. And just before my mic started cutting out earlier, circling back to my point, what I was saying was that everyone up here on stage, we have become security minded from repeatedly being under attack, and this just being kind of our job. But that, even being that way, it can put you at even more risk in certain circumstances where you think you know what's happening, but you missed one small detail. And personally, for the longest time, I have, noticed things, when something's happening, like, oh, there's a letter wrong in this, this domain or something like that. But not everybody's trained for that. And that's where these tools like this come in just such amazing usefulness, because you don't have to worry about missing a detail. You don't have to worry so much about those things, because you at least have those safeguards where if you do accidentally click a link that takes you to a malicious site, it stops you and tells you like, hey, there is something wrong with this site, or this domain is brand new. Recently had that happen to me where I clicked a link and luckily my safeguards were in place. Of course, I would have probably spotted that there was something wrong with the website, but the great thing about the tooling is it didn't even let me get that far. And that is superior security right there. And that's what everybody needs to have. Everybody needs to have something in place for this type of stuff, because no matter how trained you are, no matter how long you've been in this game, there's always something new around the corner, and no one's ever prepared enough. And that's something I harp on a lot with people now, is that no matter how good you are at security, you can never take enough safeguards, because there's always human error involved, and protecting against human error, especially in your own security, is paramount. Whether it comes as a malicious browser link, or forgetting your password, or your seed phrase, or just there's so many things that could possibly go wrong on a day-to-day. And that's why all of these tools are incredible for helping everyone give that extra check mark on their security. And that was my last point there. But if anyone else has any questions, right now would be a great time. That is the end of the questions that we had pre-submitted. So I'll give everyone a moment to put a hand up if they want to ask, come up on stage and speak. And okay, I don't see any hands up at the moment. Does anyone on stage have any last minute remarks before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, when you're traveling to like an in-person conference, I think a mistake I see a lot of people do is trying to transact at a conference, or transact while they're out and about. Don't do it. Like if you're at a conference, like be in person, like get off your phone. And it's generally bad practice, Don't be transacting like while you're at a conference. Don't connect to random networks. Don't there's just a lot of really basic stuff that you wish people would do, but just please, take a second and ask yourself, is this really what I should be doing before you do it? So hopefully that'll help you. I think a lot of people rush to do things, so I think taking a second, taking a breath is really important in Web3.
I'm really glad you brought that up too, because before I really got deep into this space, this was 3 or 4 years ago. I made that mistake. It wasn't at a hotel or anything weird. I was at Intel Corporation on a secured connection. And next day, my wallet was drained. So you can't, that is just such a great point that you don't know. If you're not on your own network, you don't know who has access to that data. You don't know who is getting to watch over that. And if you're on someone else's network, they're in control. So that is such an amazing point. Don't use public networks to transact. You are literally putting your phrase at risk because you don't know how much of that data is accessible on that network because it's not your network. It's not secured by your ownership and your passphrases and your password. So really awesome point there. Thank you.
Yeah.
My final thoughts here would be, segment and silo. You can only lose what's in a wallet. So, if you do go to that conference and you want to, buy your coffee with Bitcoin or buy something with Ethereum, throw some money into a mobile wallet. Make it Face ID as your authentication method. That's doable, right? So, when you segment and silo your security out, you can make the usability very high, the security low, or if you are using larger amounts or longer term holdings, you slide that selector down, you make the usability lower and the security higher. Segment and silo. Play with this stuff though. I highly recommend keeping a hot wallet and playing with whatever you want. Any place you go that takes crypto, buy something with it. We have to keep using this stuff and using it in an everyday way, not just locking it up and putting it in a safe somewhere.
My comment is don't tell anyone how much crypto you own. There's also risks outside of the virtual world when it comes to owning crypto. So make sure people will probably know that you own crypto. I mean, it's hard to hide that, especially as our duty as crypto evangelists to talk about crypto and promote it. But I would say it's very, very important not to tell anyone how much you own. And also, like, segmenting where you have your money in different places is super, super important.
Yo, can you hear me? Okay, so I just thought it was really good advice to throw in the fact of like segmenting and siloing. I haven't really heard those terms before, but like that makes me feel safer knowing that those are options. Because I've always thought it's funny how we kind of overlook how it's important to be redundant, and like it almost goes back into having a physical copy, like a ledger or like a written down like piece of paper that you file somewhere. Like it's just kind of funny how we've almost gone full circle into re-implementing the importance of the physical, But it's funny if that makes sense.
Thanks for that comment, man.
Yeah, thanks for all the information.
Yeah, Maycoin, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to know, does anyone have like anything in PDF? Because whatever I missed, should I just check out the website you have to offer on safety? This way I can share with others.
I think this space is recorded, so you can re-listen to the space.
Yes.
And one thing about PDFs, if you do receive PDF, someone on Discord, don't download it, like PDF file.
No, I'm here. That's all I was asking.
Sorry?
No, you're good, Kent. You're good, Marco.
Yeah, so PDFs, downloads, if you receive them from a stranger, don't download them. This is something unrelated to crypto, but it's usually like something that's trying to scam you. One thing I wanted to add is give out smart contract wallets a try. Some of them already implemented spending limits. So let's say it's the same experience as a bank account. You say, I usually spend $100 per month. That would be my spending limits for the month. Argent already implements spending limits in their and their smart contract wallets. We will have that as well in Candid Wallet. So experiment with smart contract wallets. These teams building account abstraction wallets are hungry for like testing and feedback on and iterating on the best security practices that you can offer in Web3.
Awesome. And we have another speaker up here. I believe that name is pronounced Blockchain Ninja. Some emojis for a name. Do you have some questions or comments?
Someone actually messaged me and told me to come in here. No questions. Definitely some comments. If you don't have Wallet Guard and Revoke.cash installed, in Harpy too, you should definitely do those things at a minimum. We've had too many compromises in this space that could have been easily prevented if people would have had the knowledge and or protection in place before they went trying to raw dog the blockchain. So definitely install Wallet Guard, definitely Revoke Cash. Harpy, like I said, they're good as well. I know they're working on a bunch of things in the background at this time. So just stop clicking on stupid links for the love of God.
Well, thanks everyone for being here. This has been an incredibly enlightening space. Just absolute loads of information being shared here from, well, basically the experts in this space in Web3 right now. Everybody here is building something for security, trying to help keep everyone safe in this space. That's what we're all here for. Really appreciate everyone coming here to listen. This space is recorded. It is also going to be up on YouTube, Revoke, Harpy, Candid, Wallet Guard. Anyone here wants a copy of the recording as well, I can share that out. You can all put it on your own mediums and whatnot. So this information gets to everyone. But with that, much appreciation for everyone here, and everyone have a good morning, because it's always good morning somewhere.
Thanks, Johnny. It was a great space. Looking forward to the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you.